Right, there we go. Welcome back to Shmuel Bet. Last week we completed chapter 8. I will just share the screen so we can remind ourselves what we finished last week, because we're going to start a whole new subject today. Last week we finished talking about the expansion of David's kingdom, and we showed that it went into up to Lebanon, up to Damascus, east into Jordan, southeast into the Negev and southern Jordan, and west into the area of the Philistines. And so verse 13 here on the screen says, Vayas David Shem, David made for himself a name, and we spoke about that being perhaps a matzeva, a monument to his fame. B'shuvo me'akoto et Aram, begei melach, when he came from smiting Aram in the Valley of Salt. And we spoke about how this was possibly Aram was a spelling mistake and should have been Edom, which is what it says in Divrei Hayamim. We spoke about that. And then we said, Vayasem be'edom nitzivim b'chol edom sam nitzivim, this poetic victory song that David placed governors in the whole of Edom, and that stayed there for 150 years or so. And it was David was in a great shape at this point. Verse 15, Vayimloch David al kol Yisrael. David David reigned over all Israel, and he administered justice and charity for all his people. So, and then we just get the names of who the various folk were that were doing all the jobs. So at the end of chapter 8, we have a feeling, don't we, that all is well in the world with David's kingdom. He's expanded his kingdom. He's dispensing justice and charity. All is well. And that's important for us to note, because what we're going to see in the next few chapters is more on the personal level of David's life, as opposed to the national level. At this point, we can put the national level to one side and concentrate a little bit more on the personal level of David. And of course, it's important to us because we need to know who are our heroes, who are the people that we look up to.
Turn off the phone.
I'm just going to mute everybody here because I'm getting some feedback. Don't know who it is, so I'm going to mute everybody, and then you can unmute if you want to. So we have the national characteristics dealt with, and now we're going to look at the personal characteristics of David, and much of it is going to leave much to be desired, as you will already know from your knowledge of Tanakh. The story of Bathsheba everybody knows, and various other stories which may be less well known. So we're going to move on to chapter 9, and we're going to start actually with a story which actually paints David in a very good light, as opposed to later ones which may not be quite so complimentary. So let's have a look at chapter 9 of Shmuel. Bet when you're ready, Jeffrey. We can unmute you. If you want to unmute yourself, I can't do it. You'll have to do it yourself. And then you can start chapter 9 for us.
David inquired, is there anyone else who has survived the house of Shaul, so that I may deal kindly with him for the sake of Jonathan? The house of Shaul had a servant named Ziva, and they summoned him to David. The king said to him, are you Ziva? And he answered, I am your servant.
Stop there, Jeffrey. Stop there. I meant to stop you after the first pasuk, actually, and to do two all in one go is quite a lot for us. So we'll do one at a time. The first pasuk says, Is there anyone left in the house of Saul that I may do kindness to him for the sake of Jonathan? Now, what's all that about? Somebody explain that pasuk to me.
He'd undertaken a given sworn to Jonathan that he would protect his family.
Where did he do that? Where did he do that, Paul?
Well, I think when was it as back far as when what we say Melech Chodesh?
Yes, it was. It's on the screen for you now, Jeffrey. If you wouldn't mind reading what's on the screen, please, in blue.
And I shall not ask of you if I am still alive. Will you not do kindness of the Lord with me, that I die not? And you shall not discontinue your kindness from my household forever. And not even when the Lord cuts off David's enemies, each man from upon the face of the earth. And Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, and may the Lord demand it from the hand of David's enemies. And Jonathan continued to make David swear in his love for him, for he loved him, the love of his soul.
Okay, stop there. This is Jonathan speaking, and he's talking about the kindness that David will do for his household forever. And later on, the next pasuk is exactly what Paul was referring to. Verse 18, Vayomelo Yehonatan Machar Chodesh. Tomorrow is a new moon. It's the Haftorah for Machar Chodesh. And of course, at the end of this story, what happens is that Jonathan reports to David that Shaul, his father, is after his head, and David runs off, but not before they make the oath. Verse 42 on the screen, please.
And Jonathan said to David, go in peace, and bear in mind that we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, may the Lord be between me and you, and between my descendants and your descendants forever. Okay,
we know this story very well, apart from the fact that it's Machar Chodesh. We've learned this in some detail. Shmuel Aleph, chapter 20, I think. Yeah, 20. Let's just go back to the bits in blue. What is the leitmotif of those psukim? For those that don't know what that means, it means what's the most standout word, standout idea of those psukim?
So eternal commitment to each other, basically.
Correct. Eternal commitment to each other.
Covenant.
And there's one word that's repeated. Covenant. Yeah, there's one word. One word that's repeated. Covenant actually isn't mentioned there, but there is one word that's mentioned twice. Well, it is actually a covenant is mentioned by Hashem. It is mentioned, but there's a word there that stands out twice there. Look at this.
Love, yeah.
Chesed. Love. Chesed. Yeah. Chesed. There's chesed. Chesed. And what do we have in our pasuk? What does David say? Is there anyone left that I can do chesed with? So Paul, referring us back to Shmuel Aleph, chapter 20, was quite right. Now, why all of a sudden has David woken up to this covenant that he made with Jonathan some years earlier? All of a sudden, he's saying, oh, is there anyone left that I can do kindness for the sake of Jonathan? Why is this here now?
Because he wanted to appoint governors, and he was going to, if they're any of his family, then they will be the governors.
Okay, that's not a bad suggestion. As it so happens, he does not appoint him as a governor, but that would have been a good suggestion.
It's because things have calmed down and he stopped fighting and the kingdom's settling down and becoming stable. So he remembers, and now he's got time to think about his commitments. And one of his
Spot on.
commitments was to Jonathan.
Spot on, absolutely right. And that's why this chapter comes hard on the heels of the end of chapter 8. I'll just show it you again at the end of chapter 8. David made a name for himself when he returned, right? He placed governors in Edom. That would have been Jackie's suggestion, would have been a good suggestion. And everything is nicely settled down now. David sits back, puts his feet up and says, right, now then, I've got a bit of breathing space for the first time in my life. I've made a commitment to my friend Jonathan. Now I have to start to think about it. That's exactly as Hannah has said. This is the time when he can start to think about his commitments. Now then, why would he ask, is there anyone left of the house of Shaul? What does that imply to us?
We thought they were all killed, maybe with
Yeah. Why would they all be killed, Peter?
Well, Shaul and Jonathan were killed, and I guess he didn't know what the rest of his house were, if they were all killed with him, I guess.
Okay, so very good. Jonathan, one sec. Let's just talk about what Peter said. Jonathan and Shaul were killed in battle against the Plishtim, right?
Yeah.
And then who took over after Shaul?
Ishbosheth.
Very good, Jeffrey. Jeffrey got it. Ishbosheth. Ishbosheth took over. And what happened to him?
He was assassinated.
By whom?
By his general.
By his generals, yes.
Yes,
No, by two guys who brought his head to David and expected to get a reward for it.
Yes, that's right. We know that Ishbosheth was done in because the lads brought his head. Avner was his general. Yoav killed Avner. Remember all this?
Yeah.
There doesn't appear to be anybody left. Now, we know that there is somebody left. Before we get to verse 3, we know, because we know the narrator has told us in previous chapters that there is another son of Shaul. Anybody remember his name?
Wait a second. There's also the incident with, well, I've forgotten who they are, who come and demand that they kill the house of Saul because Saul did them in.
That's the Gibeonites. We're coming to that.
The Gibeonites.
We're coming to that.
So,
Yeah. We're coming to that.
Saul's descendants killed by the Gibeonites. So he's asking, is there anybody left?
Yeah. No, you're right. We have learned that, but we skipped. It's coming in a future chapter. So at this point in this chapter, that hasn't happened yet. The Gibeonite thing has happened with Shaul, but that episode you'll see later on.
The lame son.
The crippled one.
Yes, the lame son. That's right.
Mefiboshet.
Anybody remember it? Mefiboshet. There we go. Right, now, verse 2, Jeffrey, please.
And
you can use your art scroll if you like.
Okay.
We're in chapter 9. It's nice to get the art scroll translation so that we can compare.
The house of Shaul had a servant named Ziva, and they summoned him to David. The king said to him, "Are you Ziva?" And he answered, "I am your servant."
Carry on.
Okay. The king said, "Is there any man at all left in the house of Shaul that I may perform godly kindness with him?" Ziba said to the king, "There remains a son of Jonathan whose legs are crippled."
Stop there. Stop there. Now, okay, without reading on, what is your feeling right now about this fellow Ziba?
He's the butler.
He's a butler. Okay, he's a butler, right? So, first of all, my first question is, how did David know Saul's butler? And how did he know where to find him? And if he knew David's butler, if he knew Shaul's butler, surely he knew Shaul's son. What's going on here? What's the butler
Because he
got
was
to do with
lame,
anything?
because the son was lame, Jonathan had hidden him.
Ah, okay. All right. Hold that thought.
David,
Yes, Jeffrey.
I was going to say he doesn't know whether they're alive or not. He knows of these people, but doesn't know whether they still live.
But how did he? So he knew that Ziva was alive then.
but
Yeah,
David wasn't
Okay.
wasn't David married to Saul's daughter? So that would be her brother. So surely she would know.
Oh, good point. Good point. She was married to Saul's daughter. Jackie, what was her name?
Michael.
Michal. Yeah, very good. Very good. Right. Okay.
Also,
So all of those things. Yes, Paul.
he'd been the harpist in Saul's palace, so he knew his servants.
Right. Okay. So he knows what's going on here. And Jeffrey's right that he wants to know, is there anybody left? Now, what's your feeling about Ziva here?
He was loyal to the house of Saul.
Okay, he's loyal to the house of Saul. And okay, go on, Michael.
And he most probably had a lot of interaction with David previously, and he might have been friendly with David as well, or considered him to be a friend.
Okay, all right. Do we think Ziva's a good fellow at this point, or not, or do we not know?
Neutral. You can't say.
Parav at this point. All right. Okay. It's hard for me to do this because I've read on, but all right. I'll accept that he's Parav. All right. Now then, somebody saying something there?
No, it's okay. No. Yeah.
No. Okay. I just want to point out to you that how about this? If I am Ziva and the king says to me, is there anyone left from the house of Saul that I may do him the kindness of God? I would suggest to you that Ziva would say, yes, Saul had a son. Or, yeah, Saul had a son, and his name was Mephi-boshet. But he doesn't do that, does he? What does he do? He says he's got a son and he's a cripple. He is disparaging against Mephi-boshet, not even giving him a name. Remember this. We've had this before. Names are very important in Tanakh. Okay, we have the situation where names are omitted. We've had it many times where names were omitted, where Shaul's name is omitted. I remember, Paul, you were particularly upset about this, that Shaul's name was omitted from various places, and I wanted to say that was because the author of Shmuel wanted to sort of put him down. And I think that this is the same thing here. Ziva doesn't give him a name. One sec, Paul, I'll come to you in a sec. The point I want to make is, in today's society, we have in all this sort of wokeness that we have in our society, there is an idea that people are defined by what they are, right? You know, you go in to Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, and you say, I'm Fred and I'm an alcoholic, right? And people are defined by certain characteristics. And what you're not allowed to do, of course, in today's woke society is to define somebody by their disability, right? The son of Shaul was Mephi-boshet. He happened to be lame in his feet. He happened to be crippled. What Ziva is saying is he is defined by his crippledness. And it's not just me saying that. One second, Ivan. It's not just me saying that just from this, modern wokeness situation. The Mepharshim point this out, that Ziva, and I'll give you a bit of a spoiler here, Ziva turns out not to be Parav, turns out not to be a particularly nice person. He's a negative character. And the Mepharshim say that Ziva here was trying to put Mephi-boshet down and almost say to David, he's not worth bothering with, he's a cripple. And we know something about David, that David had a particular problem with people with physical disability. How do we know that? Remember when he was battling in a couple of chapters ago? Let's see if I can find it. I think it was probably chapter 7. I'm going to guess at chapter 7 to start with. They talked about when they were attacking somewhere, and they put the cripples on the
front line.
On the front line. That's right. Now, where was that? Maybe it was chapter 6. I can't remember now. Anyway,
if they put the cripples on the front line, they'd be bound to lose. The cripples, the front line would be broken through by the opposition. Even if they tried to flank them, they'd still have the cripples in the way.
Well, the Russians
let me
are doing
see.
that at the moment in Ukraine with they're getting people who are ill or HIV positive in the front line and using them as cannon fodder. So it's the same thing.
Well, so let me see if I can find this.
They're not
where
cripples,
it is.
Michael.
Well, they are in a way.
Yeah.
Here we go.
While you're looking,
there we go. I found it. It's chapter 5. One sec. Let me just get this out of my system. There we go. Right. Verse on the screen for us, Jeffrey. Verse 6 to 8.
And the king and his men went to Jerusalem to the Jebusites, the inhabitants of the land, who spoke to David, saying, "You shall not come here unless you remove the blind and the lame," as if to say, "David shall not come here." And David conquered the stronghold of Zion, which is the city of David. And David said on that day, "Whoever smites the Jebusites and reaches the tower and removes the lame and the blind, despised by the soul of David, therefore they say, the blind and the lame shall not come into the house."
So we can see from here that these blind and lame people are called Sonei Nefesh David, despised by the soul of David. Not a very nice thing, but it seems that David has got a problem with a blind and crippled people. And so if we go back to our chapter, to chapter 9, what Ziva is saying effectively is that it's not worth your while getting involved with this son of Shaul. He's a cripple. And he doesn't even have a name. We're not even telling him who he is. So Ziva is trying to push Mephibosheth to the side. We'll carry on in a minute. Now, I think Paul wanted to say something, and then Ivor. Paul.
Well, you've read on, but it could be that he's trying to protect him, in the sense, so that David doesn't go. If he's suspicious of David's motives, he might want to keep him away from David's attention, not because he's denigrating him, but because he wants to protect him.
Could be, yes. Could well, yeah. Michael agrees with you. It could well be, and that at this point, I would agree that is a possibility. And I'll tell you why it's a possibility. And you're not the only ones to say it. Some of the mephoshim say it. I can't remember who it was now off the top of my head. Let me have a look and see if I can just find who it was. Can't remember now. Might come to me. One of the mephoshim say exactly that Ziva was loyal to the house of Saul. And what happens to kings when they are deposed?
All the family are killed.
Correct. So it would be a very reasonable thing what Paul and Michael are saying. As it so happens, as I told you, a spoiler, I've read on, and that isn't his motive. But it was a very good suggestion. I agree entirely. Yes, Ivor.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar theme, but in fact, he was in a way saying to David, he's not a threat to you.
Okay. Similar idea. He's not a threat to you. All right. Very good. But the king will not be deterred, will he? Verse 4, Jeffrey, in chapter 9.
The king said, "Where is he?" And Ziba said to the king, "Behold, he is in the house of Machir, son of Amiel, in Lo Debar."
Lo Devar. Okay, now then. What have we got to do when we find a place?
Where is it?
In Tanakh. Where is it? Because it's important where it is, right? You know, one of the things that is so brilliant about learning Tanakh is that places mean something to us, and so we need to know where it is. Right, I'm going to ask you a question. Don't look on. Where would you expect to find the place where Shaul's son is holed out?
In Binyamin.
You're very good, Jeffrey. You would expect it to be in Binyamin. Why?
Well, that's because that's where the house of Saul came from.
Yes, exactly. You would expect it to be in Binyamin. Now then, do you think it's in Binyamin?
Well, it sounds like it's not.
Correct. You've clocked my style by now, Jeffrey. It is not in Binyamin. I'm going to show you where it is in a minute. Yes, Barbara, you're muted.
Is it even a real place? Lo Davar means something.
Well, what does it mean?
It means not spoken about. Or...
No, look at it again. Look at the Hebrew.
Oh, spoken about him.
Yeah, it's not low with an aleph. It's low
okay,
with an.
I made a mistake. Okay.
Yeah. It is a real place, and so this chap Mechia ben Amiel was a real chap. I'm going to show you where Chazal think it is. Now then, here we go. Are we ready? It is mentioned as the home of Machir ben Amiel, who sheltered Mephi-Boshet. Most scholars identify Lodavar with a site in the Transjordan region of Gilad near Machanaim.
Wow.
And many may associate it with Deir al-Azar and Chirvet Ed Dabar. Okay? And then I asked it to find me a map. And it came up with this great map. There it is. You can see there is in the bigger map, the smaller map there is Eretz Israel, and then you can see here's the Kinneret, and there is the Jordan River. That squiggly blue line is the Jordan River. Anybody been to the Jordan River over here, by the way, just south of the Kinneret?
Yeah.
How big is it, Jeffrey?
Yarmuk is further up. It goes into the Sea of Galilee. Well, it used to go in the Sea of Galilee until it was diverted, and it's about it's above that dotted line on the right-hand side of the picture.
What is?
The Yarmuk River.
Is that what they mentioned, the Yarmuk River?
Yeah, it mentions the Yarmuk River. Near the Yarmuk
River. Near the Yarmuk River Valley. Near the Yarmuk River Valley. Anyway, so you've been to the River Jordan. Has anybody done any water activities on the River Jordan?
Yes.
We didn't get baptized, if that's what you mean.
Well, I went to a place on the River Jordan where they were actually doing baptisms there and then. There's one place, I don't remember exactly where it was now. It's near Kfar Blum.
It's
near Kfar Blum. It's right.
Basra and the Hood.
That's it. Have you ever been there? It's remarkable.
It's amazing.
All these people go in their kittles, right? In their white kittles, and they go in and they go into the Jordan and they come out. And it's really very spiritual. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, it's very, very spiritual. It's very Christian, of course, but it's really quite remarkable. But the other thing I was going to say about the River Jordan is at many places, it's just a little puddle. It's not much of a river, to be honest. If you go to Kfar Blum, there's an area there which is really quite deep and and you can do rafting there. I've done that before as well, which is very good fun. But this Lo Davar, the important thing about this Lo Davar is it's on the east side of the Jordan. Now, this is nowhere near the territory of Binyamin, is it?
And it's nowhere near the Yarmuk either.
Well, that may well be because ChatGPT's got the map wrong. I wouldn't rely on this map as being entirely accurate, because we know that ChatGPT's maps are not so great. There's another map for you there that they've made, and there's Machanaim, there's the Jordan River. The point that I wanted to make was that it's on the eastern side of the Jordan, nowhere near the territory of Binyamin. Now, why have they shipped Mephibosheth over the river outside of Israel? Why has he been sent to stay with this Machir ben Amiel, who was apparently a very wealthy man, and he was there looking after Mephibosheth? Why has he been sent?
But that was where Ishbosheth made his capital, and that was where Yoav came to David from, and he was on his way back there when he was killed. So Ishbosheth.
You mean Avner?
Avner, sorry.
Yeah.
Avner.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let me ask the question differently then. Why was Ishbosheth over there and not in Binyamin?
It was safer for him there, out of the way, because they'd expect him to be in Binyamin. So he went somewhere else, so he'd be safer.
And what if he was in Binyamin? What is Binyamin next to? Right next to? Yehuda. And who was the king at this point?
David.
And so, yes, he was a king in exile. He was like the Shah of Persia, who I think lives in Paris, doesn't he? Does he live in Paris? The Shah of Persia's son.
Yeah.
He's waiting in the wings because he couldn't go back to his own kingdom because David has taken it over. Oh, well, that may well be. So Ishbosheth couldn't go over there because David had taken over his kingdom. And so that's a fair comment that he's there out of the way. But my question was why Ziva would want him over there.
But that's
and you could argue, like you did before, and I would buy it, that he was protecting him. Turns out, actually, that what Ziva had done was he had usurped Mephibosheth's position, because Mephibosheth was, in fact, the heir
to the throne,
to Shaul's throne, right? He was the heir to the throne because he was the only surviving son. Ziva, it turns out, was a bit like Avner was to Ishbosheth. Remember, Avner, what did Avner do to Ishbosheth?
He switched sides in the end.
He did, but what did he do before he switched sides?
He was controlling him.
Yes, and what did he do specifically that was very naughty?
He offered him up to David.
And before that, equally naughty, he misappropriated his concubine, remember? And that is a signal that you have usurped the crown. If a person appropriates the concubine of the king, that is tantamount to a challenge to the throne. And that's
there's
what
an
Avner...
expression, Johnny, I have to tell you something here. I'm interrupting you here, but there's an expression about this in the English language. It's a 4-letter word, and it stands for fornication under consent of the king. That's what it means. That word, and this is the case here, because
really, very helpful. That, Philip. Thank you.
Misappropriation.
Yeah,
misappropriation.
Anyway, he was doing that with the king's concubine, and that was a tantamount to a threat to the throne. Turns out that Ziva has also attempted to usurp Mephibosheth, and he's very happy. I accept what Hannah's saying, which is that's where he lived, but he's very happy to have him in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel. Why is he not in his own house? He's the king, effectively, or the king in waiting. Well, it turns out that Ziva has placed him under, as it were, under the guard of Machir ben Amiel, so that Ziva can be in charge of the family assets. That's what it turns out to be. Okay. So Ziva has hidden him away, as it were, and David wants to know where he is, and he brings him. Verse 5, Jeffrey.
Anyway, I must go back. Did you get his triggers? Okay, fine.
Jeffrey,
David
verse 5.
sent and had him brought from the house of Machir, son of Amiel, from Lo-debar. Mephi-boshet, son of Jonathan, son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came before David and fell upon his face and prostrated himself. David said, "Are you Mephi-boshet?" And he said, "Behold, I am your servant."
Stop
David...
there for a second. Stop there. Stop there. So, imagine you're Mephi-boshet, and you imagine your own business, either sitting comfortably or sitting as a house prisoner of Machir ben Amiel out in the sticks in Lo-debar, and you get a message that the king wants you, and you are sent for and fetched to come in front of the king who has usurped your father's crown. No, your grandfather's crown, beg your pardon. He's the grandson of Saul. What are your thoughts?
You're going to be executed.
You're a bit nervous.
Yeah, you think you're going to be very nervous. Yeah, you're going to be a bit nervous because you think that, that's what they did. The house of the previous dynasty is totally destroyed. So he's brought in front of David, and what does he do? He falls on his face. Vayipol al panav. Who do we read about falling on their faces on a regular basis?
A lot of guys. Moses.
Yeah.
The brothers.
Moshe, Aaron. Yeah. And what are they falling on their faces for?
In fear.
To pray for the people.
To pray for the people.
Joseph. The brothers of Joseph fell on their faces when they.
And all of these
have usually done something wrong, and they fall on their faces to pray to God not to destroy them.
Right. So exactly. So it's falling on your face is what you do when something disastrous is on the cards, and you want to try and prevent it. So that's what he does. The fact that he falls on his face is understandable because he thinks he's going to be done in. And he answers and he says,
"I've got a problem with all this. I've really got a problem with all this. Because on the one hand, people knew what other people did and stuff like that, and there was communication amongst people. And Ziva should have known that David didn't take kindly to people giving up the house of Saul. He wasn't happy with the people who killed Ishbosheth. He wasn't too happy with the Gibeonites. He gave up Saul's children, but he wasn't happy about it. And so why would you put yourself in a position where David could turn on you? And also the question is whether Mephi-boshet knew of the pact between David and Jonathan, that David would protect Jonathan's children. He didn't give up Jonathan's children to the Gibeonites. Yeah, he gave up other descendants of Saul.
Okay, but that hasn't happened yet, Hannah.
Okay.
So your problem is you don't think that Mephi-boshet should have been frightened.
Well, we know that.
Be nervous. Yeah, nervous.
Okay. Well, let's just read verse 7, and you'll see. I think you will understand that he was frightened. Verse 7, Jeffrey.
David told him, "Fear not, for I shall surely deal kindly with you, for the sake of your father Jonathan. I shall return to you the entire estate of your father Saul, and you shall eat bread at my table continually.
Stop there. So the first thing that David says is, Al Tira, don't be afraid, because he can see that he is afraid. He's fallen on his face, and he's, as my father would say, he's doing it in his hazen, right? He's scared stiff, right? He's scared stiff, and quite rightly so, because the normal situation would be you get rid of all your previous things. You're absolutely right, Hannah, that if Mephibosheth knew of the pact between David and Jonathan, that might have calmed his nerves. You're right. We know as bystanders that David was very, very, what's the word? Loyal to Saul, and wouldn't allow anybody to kill him when they had the opportunity, even though he was entitled to do so because Saul was trying to kill him. So we know that. But clearly Mephibosheth was frightened because David calms him down and says, don't be afraid, I'm going to show you kindness. And if he didn't know about the pact between David and Jonathan previously, in verse 7, he certainly does now, because David tells him about it. I'm going to show you kindness for the sake of Jonathan, your father, and I will restore to you all the land of Saul, your father. Now then,
Jonathan,
who has one sec. I just want to ask this question, and then we'll go around the screen. If David is restoring the land of Saul to Mephibosheth, the question it must be asked: who has got the land of Saul at the moment? In other words, from whom is David going to take it? Well, don't answer this yet, Philip. From whom is David going to take it in order to give it back to Mephibosheth? Right, Jackie, and then somebody else had their hand up.
No,
Michael, right, we're going in this order. Jackie, Michael, Ivor, Philip. Right, Jackie first.
I'm only perturbed, going back to Mika, why she hasn't interfered. It's the only living relation she's got. Why hasn't she had something to say?
Michal, okay. Well, we don't know. We're not told. Michal is not in this picture. It's a fair question. That's to say that even she has any access to David. David didn't only have Michal as his wife, did he?
I know.
She wasn't even his favorite wife. So I don't know the answer to that question. I suspect Michal did not have much influence over David. Yes, Michael.
I'll go for the butler.
The butler. Okay, Michael thinks that Ziva has got the property. Go on, Ivor.
Now, I'm just, in my own mind, taking into the context of the previous chapter. David's fame and renown wasn't for an ish chesed. He was a warrior. He was battle-scarred. He'd shown he could be fairly ruthless in battle. And here, this chapter opens with saying, I want to show another face. I want to be famous for something else. And I'm looking to do a chesed. So all of this discussion here, we're looking at it from the point of view of how these people are reacting. Ziba and the rest of them. Ziba sees him as he was known. And anybody can have Mephibosheth. This was the David. All of a sudden, there's a new David.
Very good. Excellent. I like that. Philip?
Okay. David has to take back.
Hang on, Hannah. Philip first.
David has to take back what belonged to Shaul, as far as I understand, from the Philistines. They're still holding Ishbosheth as a hostage, basically.
Ishbosheth's dead.
Mephibosheth, I'm sorry.
Okay, so first of all, he's nowhere near the Plishtim. The Plishtim are on the coast of the Mediterranean, and Mephibosheth is over the other side of the Jordan. He's
so
in
who's
Moab.
Who's powerful enough to?
But that's not the question. The question: where were the lands of Shaul? He says, I will restore to you all the land of Saul your father. Where is this land?
Benjamin.
It was in Benjamin.
Correct. It's in Binyamin. Okay, Jeffrey, you wanted to say something.
Well, it was just north of Judea,
Yeah.
and there was a big battle there, and Shaul lost his life in the battle, and I would imagine he would have lost his property at the same time.
But David has now defeated the Plishtim, so you're saying that David's got the land.
Well, I suppose,
By default.
but he's not allowed to take. He's not allowed to take spoils for himself. He can take it for the state, but he can't take it for himself.
Okay, so let me ask the question again. From whom is David going to take the land to give it back to Mephibosheth? Somebody has to have it. So far, I've only had one suggestion, and that's Michael's suggestion that it's the butler, Ziva. Anybody want to suggest something else? Jeffrey's sort of suggesting that David's got the land because he took it from the Plishtim. Maybe. Well, you'll be interested to know that the Radak agrees with Michael Krauss. The Radak thinks it was the butler who did it. Okay, in the conservatory with the lead piping. Yeah. Right. So we've got Ziva is the prime candidate. Now, what seems to have happened here is that Ziva has appropriated all of the lands. David, you're right, Jeffrey. David conquered it off the Plishtim and returned it to its rightful owners, which was the family of Shaul. Only Ziva, the butler, has realized that Mephibosheth is a cripple. He can shove him in a corner over the Jordan with Machir ben Amiel, who can make sure he doesn't go anywhere. And Ziva can sit pretty with his land and get all the money and the proceeds of the land. That is what the Mephoshim seem to say. So Michael is spot on there. So so that's the first part. I will restore to you the land of Saul your father, and you shall eat bread at my table continually. What does that mean?
He would be kept.
Come and live with me.
He would have a stipend.
Yeah, all of those things. Come and live with me. You don't need to be under a house arrest with Machir ben Amiel. You can come, and it was a great honor, of course, to eat at the king's table. How do we know that?
Well, David ate at Saul's table.
Correct. Paul, how do we know that David ate at Saul's table?
Because he was missing for Rosh Chodesh, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were too slow there, Paul. Michael got in there before you. I was trying to come full circle. Yes, Mocha Chodesh. That's the whole point. Mocha Chodesh. David was missing from the king's table. So yeah, to eat at the king's table is a big zechut. It's a big yichus to sit at the king's table.
Unless he throws spears at you.
As President Trump knows, that's right. Yes, to sit at the king's table. Somebody's got their hand up. Is it you, Hannah?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to push back about David not being Ish Chesed. First of all, the Tanakh says that he dealt with tzedek v'mishpat. He was fair in his judgments, and we also have to remember that when they came back and the soldiers wanted to take all the booty for themselves, and those that hadn't fought don't get anything, he insisted that all the spoils get divided equally. And he appears to have had, I don't know if he did or not, but he appears to have had a very strong sense of justice. And the right thing to do was to give Mephibosheth back his land.
I agree, and I agree entirely with that. And I don't think that, I 100% agree, but I don't think that is a stira. I don't think that is a contradiction to what Ivor said, because what Ivor said... Wait, let me finish. What Ivor said was that David had a reputation as a man of war. And he had a reputation, by this time, a fearsome reputation. He had made for himself a name. He had expanded his kingdom in all directions, and that has to have come at a price to the local inhabitants. And so what Ivor was saying, and it's not a contradiction to what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, we, the reader, know the character of David. That's why David is one of the reasons why David is held up to be one of our greatest leaders, if not our greatest leader after Moshe, because of his great sense of justice, his great sense of kindness, and his ability to admit when he was wrong. But for the folk around at the time, he must have been a fearsome character. He must have been somebody who you would say, I'm not messing around with David. So I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive, Hannah. I agree with you. We know what David was like. David had a very strong sense of justice. We see that when the way he dealt with Saul himself. So, but I don't think it's necessarily a contradiction. So I agree with you on that. Yes, Peter.
Yeah. I wanted to the concept of David having no time for the blind and the lame. Did I get that right?
It seems that way. Yeah.
That kind of detracts a bit from his character, I would say, and maybe also explains the fear that Mephibosheth would have that coming before David, knowing that he'd not a lot of sympathy for lame people. I mean, it's hard to think that maybe one of the greatest of our heroes had no time for people who were lame and blind.
It's true. It's true. And I'm just going to read to you a little paragraph here. No, that's not the paragraph I wanted to. Here we go. This is the paragraph I wanted to suggest to you. This is from a chap called Vergon. I don't know who it is. It's quoted. It's quoted by Rav Bazak. I don't know who he is. He's a contemporary writer, and he says like this. He argues that David was disgusted by people with physical defects. Thus, Vergon explains the strange words in the account of the conquest of Jerusalem, which we dealt with previously, which we've just said before. Except you take away the blind and the lame, you shall not come in hither, thinking David cannot come in hither. And David said on that day, whosoever smites the Jebusites and gets up to the gutter and takes away the lame and the blind that are hated of David's soul. We just quoted that passage. Wherefore they say, there are the blind and lame, he cannot come into the house. According to Vergon, the Jebusites placed blind and lame people on the wall in order to take advantage of David's disgust with people with physical defects and thus deter him. He continues, Ziva, who knew about David's famous weakness, tried to deter him from his act of kindness by emphasizing Mephibosheth's lameness. In other words, Ziva didn't want David to be kind to Mephibosheth, and he tried to say, he's a cripple, and I know that you don't like cripples. However, scripture stresses that David overcame his weakness when he brought Mephibosheth into his house, despite the fact that Mephibosheth was lame in both legs. And then he says later, Vergon explains that in David's judgment of Mephibosheth in chapter 19, his original disgust revealed itself anew. That's later on. We'll come back later on. And Rav Bazak then says, in my humble opinion, Vergon's theory is very far-fetched, but nevertheless, it is a theory. It seems, Peter, that there is this weakness of David, but I like the idea that Vergon puts forward that David overcomes this. That's part of the greatness of David, isn't it? Part of the greatness of David and part of the greatness of many of our heroes is that they're not perfect. We don't have saints, right, who never do anything wrong. Unfortunately, in the Art Scroll world, the Gedolim can never do anything wrong. You know, everything is 100% perfect, but it's not the way it is. David, one of our greatest heroes, was full of flaws, but his greatness was in the ability to overcome that. And I like that idea. Rav Bazak's not keen on it, but I actually quite like that idea that David's overcome that his weakness with Mephibosheth. David is for me. David is a very, very believable character. David is. I think David is one of the greatest heroes of Israel because of his vulnerability, because he's a believable character. He's not somebody who is painted as being 100% perfect. He's somebody who has faults, who falls, and who tries very hard to overcome those faults and says, Chatati, I've sinned. And I think David's a very, what you would say in Hebrew, it's not quite the right translation as sympathetic, but sympathy. He's a kind of person that, you know, you can like. He's a likable character. Yeah, he's an empathetic character. Yes, I agree. So, so it turns out that I've spoiled it all a bit, really. But Ziva turns out to be the culprit here. Michael Krauss gets the Sherlock Holmes Award for this week. And David has said, "Don't worry, Mephibosheth, I'm going to look after you. You'll eat bread at my table continually." And how does Mephibosheth react? Verse 8, Jeffrey.
Mephibosheth prostrated himself and said, "What is your servant that you should pay attention to a dead dog such as myself?"
Stop there. Mephibosheth describes himself as a dead dog. He says, I'm not worthy of you being kind to me. Why are you being so kind to me? I'm a garnished. I'm a dead dog. Where have you heard that expression before? Who else described himself as a dead dog? Who else described himself as a dead dog? You all know this.
I don't remember.
Where's Barbara gone? Are you still there, Barbara? We can't see you. Oh, you are there. I would have thought you might have got this, Barbara.
The guy that David protected, and then he didn't want to pay him. Abigail's husband.
Naval. No, it wasn't.
Naval.
There it is on the screen for you, Jeffrey, if you wouldn't mind reading what's on the screen for you. It's chapter 24 of Shmuel Aleph.
After whom has the king of Israel come forth? Whom are you pursuing? A dead dog? A single flea?
Well, David.
David himself said to Shaul, all right, this is after David had an opportunity to kill Shaul. He had the corner of his cloak he'd cut off. Remember the story, right? He'd caught him napping and caught all his bodyguards napping, and he'd got the corner of his skirt, and he says to him, "Why are you chasing me? Stop chasing me. I'm not a threat to you. I'm just a dead dog or a single flea." Very interesting use of the expression there. To my best of my knowledge, don't quote me until I confirm this. To the best of my knowledge, there is nowhere else in Tanakh where the expression of a human being compared to a dead dog comes. So the fact that David uses this expression here, and then Mephibosheth describes himself as a dead dog, I don't think is a coincidence. I think it's a brilliant literary device. Maybe Mephibosheth did it deliberately because he knew of that, or maybe he didn't do it deliberately but the author of Shmuel is clearly signposting us back to David. And I suppose the expression that you could use is what goes around comes around. Here, David was being very kind to Shaul because he didn't kill him and he could have done. And now he's being very kind to Shaul's grandson, not actually because of Shaul, but because of Jonathan. Yes, Jeffrey.
So, my take on this is the child, when David uttered those things, it was in the court of Shaul. The child could have been there. He could have overheard it. He wasn't such a temple. He wasn't so. Now he sees that the whole thing is reversed, and he quotes David. I think it was a clever maneuver on his part.
Yeah, maybe, and that's certainly a theory that would stand up. It's a beautiful idea, though, that when you see that, it stands out very very starkly when we go back to the previous thing. Now we're out of time, but I have got another. I've got another source here up, and I can't remember why. Oh yes, I know why. I know why, but we've not got to there yet, so we'll have to do that next time. So we are up to, just for the recording, so we know where we're up to. What have we done today? We have done a whole 8 psukim today. That's rather good. We have spoken about David's kindness towards Jonathan. We have spoken about the butler Ziva, who is not so loyal after all. It turns out that he was a bit of a chancer, and he's tried to take the role of Mephibosheth, at least the property of Mephibosheth. David brings Mephibosheth back from Lodvar, which is over the other side of the Jordan, and he does the kindness to him because of his promise to Jonathan back in Machachodesh times. So we've seen that, and we saw this idea that Mephibosheth, quite understandably, was scared. David says, don't be afraid, I'm going to show you kindness because of your father Jonathan. And Mephibosheth says, I'm not worthy, I'm just a dead dog. And we've spoken about the connection there with what David said. What we will do next time, whenever that will be, because we'll start again after the Chagim now, is that we will carry on from verse 9, and we will see a little bit more. Ziva's character will be revealed a little bit more in the coming Shiurim. Be'ezrat Hashem. Any comments or questions on what we've done today?
Good.
I think
No, very good.
Thank you.
In that case, I will wish you all a k'tiva v'chatima tova, and we will resume after the Chagim. And we've got some exciting news actually after the Chagim, which may impact on our Shiurim, but I'll leave you hanging in the air with that one.